this is Josh Jackson. I'm here with Amanda Palmer at the Sennheiser and Paste Studio and Lounge here in Austin, Texas, which I think we've both been enjoying for a few days, this fair city. And so welcome, Amanda.
Thank you.
Now, you just did something that I think has had quite an impact with your TED Talk. What were you thinking going into this?
What was I thinking?
Yeah, I mean, was this nerve-wracking?
Oh yeah, it was really nerve-wracking putting it together.
Yeah.
I just wrote a long blog thanking just all the people who helped me, not even getting into the process of how I made it. And it's this long. The very beginning of the process was the hardest because TED people came to me and said, okay, you've got 12 minutes. You can do whatever you want. You can play, you can talk, you can play and then talk, you can talk and then play, you can... I mean, I took that to mean I could just stand there naked and like bang on a cowbell, which I did think about doing.
Yeah, that's one of the options.
I was like, how awesome would it be if I just like came out and was just like, cowbell. And then people would think it was really funny for like 10 seconds, and then they'd be like, she's really gonna do this? And I'd be like, fucking I want to do it. This is my message! And I'd never be invited back, but everyone would remember it.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I really struggled because I was like, well, this is a huge broadcasting platform, and I'm a musician. So I was like, I really just want to play, but I know I also have this thing to say. So then I went through this hellish week of being like, all right, I'm gonna write a musical on ukulele, piano, and multimedia crowdsourced. I ended up not doing that, and I think it's very good I didn't do that. At the end of the day, I had a few dinner parties with my friends, and they basically convinced me, listen, like, you talk about all of these bizarre ideas of crazy performance art oriented things you could do at TED, but you get the most excited and you sound the most excited when you talk about what you just want to talk about, which is what I talked about.
Yeah, which is
and I'm glad
an important
I did.
thing for you for a lot of years now. I mean, this has been the model. We were just talking that, of course, you had your Kickstarter campaign, which just went through the roof. But before that, you had started your own sort of proto-Kickstarter yourself. What led to, okay, this is the model I want to do?
Well, people have been sort of kickstarting since the beginning of time.
Yeah, we were just talking about it. Paste did that in 2008 and really relied on our readers to keep us going an extra year in the print magazine.
The internet especially made it possible to reach out to your actual audience and say, can you help? And it's beautiful seeing this sea change, not just in music, but kind of all over the place of like, oh, well, I guess now that we all can talk to each other, all these things are possible that we didn't really think about or didn't really expect because of the system that we're so used to. But even in the early days, even when we were on the label, Brian and I in the Dresden Dolls, we had already been our own DIY label and printing our own CDs and doing everything, Xeroxed artwork and the whole deal. But even when we signed with the label, I didn't trust those guys. Yeah. I knew that, as a record label, they had a certain job. I knew their job wasn't to care about me all day. I knew they wouldn't. I know no one will, actually, except for me. Plenty of people will work on my behalf, but I also knew that I had to take care of the fan base aggressively myself because no one else was going to want to do it. And I had some really interesting arguments over at Roadrunner Records because there were things that I even assumed, well, you guys at least get this. Like, you at least get that we need our internet team working between album cycles. And they were like, why would you need that? It's because it's good. Yeah. Because we want people to be able to find us, even if we're not on tour or selling records or actively going out there trying to take the money. Yeah. Because it's actually, this is what it's about. Us and our fans and them finding our music and listening to it. So I was really, when I kind of saw the way the major label system worked and the way publicity worked and the way the machine was all put together, I sort of just retreated, and Brian was like my wingman.
Yeah.
And we just, anything that the label wouldn't help us with or people wouldn't help us with, we would just do, even if it was against the rules. And a lot of bands have done that.
Yeah, because you can see that interaction playing live shows. You knew your fans. You got to know them after shows and all these interactions, and the label didn't ever have that perspective. So.
The label never even discussed stuff like that with us. And no one ever in my career or in our long touring career ever had to come up to me and say, you really ought to go out after the show and shake a couple hands and meet your fans. I was like, where are they? So, but that's also my personality. That's not every artist.
Yeah.
And the artists nowadays who are more social are weirdly getting an advantage just because we have access to our people the way other artists don't, which isn't necessarily a reflection of our art. It's a reflection of our personalities, which is interesting.
And you are particularly open through social media. Is there ever times when you just want to retreat, or are you?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
you
and
need
I
that
do.
time. Okay.
But you don't know about it because I'm not telling you.
Yeah. There you go. Well,
I just vanish. Yeah, I mean, and I talk about this a lot with my husband, who's like, the two of us are terrible sometimes. We're so, it's such a nice relationship there on our phone.
Yeah.
There's so much love
Yeah.
and so much positivity that it can be tempting to kind of turn to it in times of need and when things get hard, and it's not a complicated husband or wife, it's just a bunch of people saying, you're fantastic. So
But you're aware of that, and both of you are aware of that. And,
I mean, having an awareness of it is the only way.
Yeah.
And I have actually, we'll make rules with each other about shutting off, which I think are important. I worry about everybody. I mean, I worry about the whole human race walking around just not looking at each other and not connecting with each other, and I'm a culprit.
Yeah.
But I think about it more and more. I mean, I really consciously put my phone away, and I consciously try to not start my day with my email and all that kind of stuff. I love how this is me in bed checking my email and going like, I'm such an asshole. I should probably be a human being before now. Right. So I think our culture is so whack right now with the possibilities. Like, we're drowning in a buffet of connections and communication.
Yeah, and it's speeding down there so fast. I have the same worries, and I have the same, I am also a culprit. So it's trying to find that balance, and how do we strike that? I mean, where do you think that's headed as far as?
Off a cliff.
Yeah, off a cliff? Do you?
Well, I think the optimist in me likes to think that social media, whatever you want to call it, the hyper connection to our smartphones, to our computers, to our whatever your drug of choice may be. I'd like to think it's a little like smoking was in the 20s. Everybody was doing it all the time, everywhere you went. And no one thought it was bad for you. You just did it, and it was awesome. And it felt great. Yeah. And then gradually, over the course of many years, things came to light. Yeah. And I think things may come to light as people go, you can have a tenor and a kind of relationship on Twitter or Facebook or through email. And some of them are really deep and profound and great and should not be minimized. I don't like it when people minimize the relationships and the connections that people find and have on the internet, because who the fuck are you to say that that's not a real connection? If it's a real connection if two people feel something.
Yeah, I think what I worry about is less the, all these connections we're making online. It's if they replace that actual human connection.
I hope not. I mean, human beings won't evolve that fast. But I would like to think that there will be an etiquette that, because we're all going crazy right now, I'd like to think that whipping out your phone to see if you've gotten any texts, if you're having a dinner party with 6 people or whatever, or any people, will be considered as rude as if you were just in a restaurant in Austin and lit up a cigarette. I mean, everyone would be like, what the fuck are you doing? This is not good and not allowed, and we've made all these rules, and we kind of all agree about them because and I think the etiquette will hopefully shift. I hope we don't go off the cliff.
I hope so too. Well,
I like it up here on the cliff.
yeah, well, yes, on the edge, just right on the edge. So you've been, spending a lot of time lately with this TED Talk, thinking about the process of all of this. But at the heart, you're a musician, and you've now got lots of new people kind of coming. Oh, well, I like this Amanda Palmer's talk. Let me see about Amanda Palmer music. What's going on with you musically right now? What's
Nothing.
the plan? Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. I used to make music. Then I started talking too much.
You remember music?
That's not true. I just put out a fantastic record, and it took a long time to birth that record. It was like all in. It was like a 3 or 4 year lopsided process to get that record, that band together, that record made, that record out the door, and I'm insanely proud of it. And I think it's the best record I've ever made, and I know my fans have heard it, my hardcore fans have heard it. It hasn't really gotten much attention outside of that, which is technically fine with me. But it is nice for anyone coming to me through TED World. I can be like, look, I just made this great thing. You should listen to it.
Yes, I have. And
I mean, not you.
Yes,
well, you should too.
You all should listen to it. It is a great record. And you were planning on touring this record, and tragedy kind of struck with a friend. And do you have any thoughts of when? I know you're playing this week, and those of us in Austin will get to hear you.
Yeah, so I did a fall leg of my tour, and I was supposed to be touring all through the spring, and I canceled, but I rescheduled, and my friend is actually doing okay right now.
That's great.
We don't know what the future is going to bring, but right now he's kind of stable, and I'm going to be touring kind of spottily through the summer, and then in the fall, I'm going to go make up my Australia, New Zealand, and Europe dates, which those were the tours I had to pull. Yeah. So I'm going to go make all that up in the fall, and after that is kind of a mystery.
So any thoughts on, you've done this TED Talk of doing more speaking, more writing? I know you do your blog already, but other more formalized ways of putting things out there in the world of the thoughts of Amanda Palmer?
Yeah. I'm going to take it as it comes. I really do like talking to people. I like this.
Yeah.
I have tried my hand at writing. I mean, I blog a lot, clearly, and I blog very, very freely and unedited. And, I find that I'm able to blog when I don't ever reread what I've written, which is probably why you see typos in my blogs. But I'm incredibly jealous of my husband in his ability to sit down and write a giant thing with a lot of coherent thoughts. And I think it's also the hunger in me for that instant gratification of like having a thought and immediately wanting to share it, and not wanting to wait 6 months to write and edit and then another 6 months to publish it and share it. So I think, if I have ideas I want to share, and I could talk to you all day about the music industry and what happened to me and what I think and how I like doing it and how I think the way I do it isn't for everyone, and on and on and on. But I'm fascinated by other people. It's part of why I like meeting all of them. I think people are great, even the fucked up ones. I love talking to them. And so maybe I will talk to people and put it on the internet.
It would be cool, a series of videos Amanda Palmer asks everybody else.
I want to talk to the people that you wouldn't expect, though. I want to talk to, like beauty pageant contestants under 7, and then people over 95. Who were in beauty pageants when they were, I don't know. I want to make up weird shit and talk to people. I think that would be fun. But being me, that will probably be one of 19 things that I'm doing, because if I did just that, I'd be really bored really fast.
Well, since this is the Sennheiser and Pace Studio Lounge, I wanted to ask you one question about the record. And you said it took so long. What was it taking to get the right sound as you're making this record, and finding exactly what that thing in your head is that you want it to get to that final across the finish line?
Yeah, well, this was an interesting record because unlike, I mean, the Dresden Dolls records were really easy to make in that we just wanted the Dresden Dolls to sound the way we sounded in a club. We wanted to be loud and drums and piano and balls to the wall
right in
and
your face and
right. And both of our records did that in different ways in different recording settings, but basically there wasn't a whole lot of discussion of what the sound of the record would be. It needed to sound like the Dresden Dolls. And the Dresden Dolls were a live band. And then my first solo record that I made with Ben Folds, I had this pile of songs. I gave them all to Ben and I said, I have some ideas, but like have at it. I don't know. What do you think? And he went Ben Folds crazy on them and was like, we're going to put Moog on this and we're going to do this over here and then I'm going to use the strange Russian synthesizer and I'm going to play drums. And he kind of like arranged and produced most of the songs on the record. And for this one, something totally new happened, which is I wrote all these songs that I knew were band songs. And I knew how I wanted them to sound. I could hear them done up there. And so I had to find the right producer who I didn't need to explain too much. Like, I knew that John Congleton was the right producer when I sent him the demos, and he went, I know what you want to do. You want to do this, this, and this thing. You want these to sound like this, 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 and this bands. Am I getting this right? And I was like, yep, you're hired. He could see into my brain.
How did you know that? Like, what was it about the...
We grew up on the same musical diet.
Okay.
We had the same favorite bands. We spoke the same 80s dialect. You know, he would...
Tell out a couple of those.
I sent him... I played actually in a studio in New York. I played him just the piano version of the first song on the record, "Smile." And I went back in there and I said, "Do you know what I'm going to go for here?" And he said, "Yes, My Bloody Valentine, Swans, these Swan songs." And I was like, "I love you." So yeah, he got it. And when it was the Cars, it was the Cars. And when it was like this era of Depeche Mode and The Cure with a certain kind of drum loop, he knew, we knew. We just didn't, we were working off the same palette.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming out here. We're excited to have you at our showcase this week, this Friday, and
excited too.
And getting to hear some of those new songs performed live. But thanks for coming out and talking.
Thank you.
Great.